Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajeem. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamualaikum. Ji ayanu bukhair agale ni hao chunushumme washbare. Ohai gonzaimas. Guten Morgen. Hola. Bonjour. Privyet. Kaifa hal? Hale shuma chatore. Ahlan wasal. Marhaba. Buena. Mucho gracias. Swabi abballi kare aaya. Hoş geldin. Sayo khuyamora chi bato chi haljot kalimera khairutan. And a very warm welcome to everybody who's tuned into PTV World and are watching World this morning. Alongside my very well-learned colleague who happens to be Ms. Hajra Satti, I happen to be Shahzad Hassan Khan. And we hope and pray that everybody out there is doing wonderfully well and that you're ready to kickstart your day with us. Ladies and gentlemen, first things first. Hello Hajra, Assalamu alaikum. How are you feeling today?
Walaikum assalam. Thank you so much for introducing me. Jazakallah khair. I think it's the second day and it's very, very cold and it's fog out there. And thank God it's not smog, so it's not Lahore. It's Islamabad, clean and green. And this is one of the beauty of Islamabad. So Shahzad, while I was driving from my home towards the office, I was listening to a very interesting conversation on a podcast. And I think that conversation can resonate with a lot of people across the world. And that too, especially who are living in the Western countries, which is about that there is not enough meaning in the life. People nowadays get bored easily. And there were lots of factors that they identified, but actually it was very interesting the way they were dissecting the emotions and human psychology, because we tend to demonize some of our emotions a lot of time, right?
For example?
So for example, the emotion of boredom, we tend to demonize it. We say, okay, you know, we are feeling like that because, you know, for X, Y, Z reasons. But I think these emotions, they're signals from a body that something is not right up. We are not having a very meaningful experiences or conversations or emotions inside us, and something needs to change.
True.
And whenever we feel some sort of an emotion, it is actually a message from our soul, our innate soul, because our soul is connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are all connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that is why in Quran we listen or hear this verses that Allah is even nearer to us than a jugular vein, and He lives inside us, right? And He lives in our hearts. So when we feel that boredom, when we feel that emotion of boredom, so this is a message that something needs to be changed, and we are not channelizing our creative energies into a channel, a path which can uplift us, especially our innate soul. And that is why you will see that across the world, especially in the Western countries, I think in some Scandinavian countries, they came up with the Ministry of Loneliness, because people are feeling so much lonely there. They do not have meaning in their lives. They're going, they're working out. And one of the reasons that they mentioned was because of the social media, we do not experience novelty or new experiences, because there's so much overload of the information out there, of the content out there, and the romanticism which was associated with something which was not known to us, which was mystery to us. That's all gone, right? Nowadays, because of the social media, we get to know everything.
Exactly. And Hajra, in addition to this, you know, I have two examples to share. So just imagine that just yesterday, you know, my manager was actually shooting a video on my phone and he was editing it, and I was like, okay, you know, where's my phone? Where's my phone? And all of a sudden I looked at him and he was doing something, and I was like, yeah, you know, what better can I do if I do not have my phone? I was like, Allah ka zikr karna chahiye. You know, why can't we do a tasbih?
Or observe just your environment, right?
Exactly.
The trees, the
and in addition to that, so I took him to the gym. I was like, okay, if you are here with me, I'm going to go to the gym. You have to be with me. You have to accompany me. Imagine that he was on his treadmill and he was continuously, you know, kind of looking at his phone. And I was like, why are you even here then? So imagine for all of those people, most of the times we are actually not paying attention to detail, whatever's happening around us in the nature. And most of the time people are just hooked onto their phone, which kind of contributes towards letting us know that they have this emotion. There's another demonized emotion, and we call it loneliness, right?
Yes.
Even though you feel lonely or not, but just because you're using your phone, people will not socialize with you. And there are a lot of other issues which you might create for yourself. Are you learning something new from social media? Well, that's a question too as well. We're talking about it, but in particular what we're talking about is that how to kind of have that detox. You know, for example, if we're having a lot of parathas and whatnot, you know, all of a sudden, you know, somebody who's a health freak will get up and be like, you know, I need to detox now, you know, so they will have these cucumbers and lemons in the water. That's a quick fix. Well, what should we do that we stay connected as well? We want to stay connected with the rest of the world, and that we detox and that we have time for ourselves. I think that's what we're talking about today.
Right, that's true, because we are going to talk about that digital detox and digital minimalism, how to live a more focused life, a more mindful life, because nowadays we are, I think, engaging in a lots of mindless conversation, especially on the social media. And I always maintain that social media always promotes mediocrity, because this is how it is built, right? But this is my opinion. Obviously, people can differ from that. And to discuss to put it more succinctly, to shed the light on this very important topic, we are very glad that we have been joined in our studio, who happens to be a beauty with the brains. She is Dr. Rubia Usman, my very favorite. Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Rubia, and thank you so much for coming to our
Assalamu
show.
alaikum, both of you.
Wonderful.
Thank you for having
And
me.
thank you so much, Maroof International Hospital as
Yes.
well, for because after every now and then they do keep on sending in guests, who are so amazing while we're having this
And
conversation.
they're beautiful addition to our screens, and we must appreciate them. So, Dr. Rubia, what sort of relationship do you have with your social media? Let's talk about it, and then obviously let's talk about digital detox.
And let's
also.
get started with you first of all, so that people can actually understand that one person who's actually going to kind of train us on how to detox, what sort of a relationship does he enjoy?
Now
So
I know
please.
why Hajar called me for this, because I was wondering why I've been called. So anybody who knows me knows that I spend on an average about 4 to 6 hours on a social media.
Okay.
Now that's very honest admission right here. I'm not going to lie about that. So the question is, are you the puppet or are you the puppeteer? So I use the social media for everything. I use it for my own promotion, to tell people I'm this, I'm that, this is what I do, this is my work. I do it because it gives me joy. So I'll share something about myself, then people will reply, and there's a bit of a healthy conversation going on. And I do it to stay in touch with all my international friends.
Okay.
So for me, the target is very clear, very obvious. And then there's a little bit of showing off of clothes and showing off of shoes and bags. let's not ignore that.
Yeah.
Boasting your ego, yeah?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if anybody else was to see my social media activity, they'll probably be like, she's the first one who needs to detox because she's there all the time. How can she be productive?
True.
However, all through my life, it's never affected my work or my home life. And that's not just an opinion that's coming from me. I have asked my children before coming here. So do they feel that I'm neglecting them, for instance? I will, however, say a lot of it is a lie. So by lie, I mean it's like a facade. So what happens is that I might be putting a picture of me and my children having an awesome time, and we're like smiling and everything. But 5 minutes before that, the 5-year-old would have thrown a tantrum, and the eldest would have said, oh, do we have to take a picture again? And there will be all kinds of fights going on. Right. What you'll see is that 2-second snapshot of, oh my God, this is an awesome mom, this is an awesome doctor, this is an awesome person. Look at them, perfect family.
Yeah.
They won't see the fights behind it, the tears behind it, and all of that. I think that is the most important message to take. It is a bit of a sort of like just like a veil. It's just sort of concealing all the negatives and just promoting the best.
Exactly, but I think it has to do quite a lot with how humans are built, because we are social beings. That's one thing as well. But imagine that Allah actually tells us that because during the day you have work, it's okay, no problem, but in the middle of the night, get up, pray to me. So that means that a man is not just designed to work or probably sleep. I think that that we really need to dedicate our times in the zikr of Allah as well, in doing multiple things. We cannot sit idle.
Exactly.
That's one thing which I've always been thinking about, that no matter what happens, because she just spoke about okay, yaar, I'm very bored. Now you're bored when you're not doing anything.
Yeah.
Right? So maybe reading a book, maybe doing anything, but you are supposed to do something. But with this, when you start to do this, I think that's something
It
when it
doesn't end.
starts to
Absolutely.
get you, right? So when we say detox, how can we identify what do we need to detox from?
So the important thing is to see the timeline. Now this is really interesting. So social media actually started in 1997, which is really cool because it shows that it's been there for 25 years. So this is something which is as old as some of us.
Yes.
So there are some people who were born into
Exactly
this.
like me.
So not me, unfortunately, I'm a bit older, but yes, you definitely, Shazad, since you're only 25. But what I'm trying to say is
Plus
that
10.
yeah, still much younger. And then like the interesting thing is things like TikTok only came in 2016.
Yes.
So this trend, the video viral trend, is very new, but staying in connection is a little bit older. So do we need to break apart from both? Some. I think it has to be, it's all about moderation. So I think it has to be like a healthy dose of good and bad in your life. We need a bit of a reality check anyway, most days. So the important thing is to realize when to detox and when. So if it's affecting your quality of life, if you're kind of like feeling let down by seeing other people's posts and you're feeling that, oh my God, I'm missing out and I don't have this and I don't have that, and you've gotten into this rat race and you're putting pressure on yourself to achieve that, that means that you've got red flags.
Okay.
So it's really important to recognize the red flags. I think that's the first step. FOMO is a real thing. I only found out about it a few years ago. I'm this old. So people have this obsessive need to be involved everywhere. And if somebody says, the most common topic in weddings, in events, social events is, oh, did you see XYZ? Did you like know? So ये पुराने ज़माने से चलता आ रहा है. पहले it was the मोहल्ले की आंटियाँ and it was the people who met, and now it's like, did you see something on Facebook? Did you see something on Instagram? So FOMO is a real thing to be aware of. But is it so bad that you actually will sacrifice your own life and your own time just to be a part of something which is not productive? If all of these red flags are there, then yes, it's time for you to detox.
So imagine, Hajat, just in addition to that, for all the people who might not know what FOMO is, it's the fear of missing out, please. You know, so a lot of people are actually kind of.
Millennials are pretty aware of this term.
No, majority of the people are not. You know, just the other day I was actually asking a friend. I was like, "Are you having a FOMO?" You know, we were doing something. He's like, what's FOMO?
That's the coolest term, right? A trendy term.
Yeah.
But I think, Shahzad, you are also on the Instagram, and Dr. Rubia, you are also on the Instagram, and I'm also on the Instagram. And let's talk about how this app is designed. It's designed in a way that has a validation loop, right? And I think it's not, I'm not promoting any conspiracy theory, but it's just that it is designed that we started to hate ourselves. So, for example, we upload a picture and it just gets a 10 likes, right? And we are like, oh my God, this is, you know, such a short engagement, it is a little engagement, and then we come up with another content that is going to get maybe 100 likes, and we are like, oh yes, now I get, you know, 100 likes, and this is something, an achievement, right? So we feel validated when someone is liking our post. It might not matter what sort of a content I'm posting, right? Maybe I'm posting some very off sort of a trivial sort of a bullshitty sort of a content, right? So how do we, I mean, obviously there is an inbuilt validation, and they are just earning money out of that, right? Because they want the ads to come in, and yes, and then they're selling our personal data out of that. But yeah, so how do we deal with this entire validation loop, which is very, I mean, self-hating content?
And that, why do we feel like that we need validation? From people?
Oh, yes.
So this is all dependent on personality traits. So they did research on 5 different personality traits and to see how social media, how they and social media interact with one another. Believe it or not, all 5 types of major personalities will actually respond positively to most social media aspects. Yes. However, narcissists, for example, will control it. So they will, like you said, they will manipulate the trend in such a way that they will do it to suit them. So they will actually be the biggest bullies in the playground. They're literally the lions who are walking around in their den and they know kaise control karna hai aur kya karna hai. Sometimes it can go the other way, which is cyber trolling. So they will actually be doing harm to others and this is so common. I mean, and this is not exclusive to social media, because if you remember Monica Lewinsky, for instance, I want to use this because she talks a lot about this. She's one of the first examples of trolling and cyberbullying, really, if you think about it. At that time, internet was just new, and it was just, it wasn't even really part of it, but yet she was targeted to this extent that the woman could not live her own life.
Yes.
I mean, even though I mean, I'm sorry that I'm going to come up with this example, but this just happened recently. So I do not have to say anything as a person how Chahat Fateh Ali Khan might probably be, but imagine he went to Gujranwala, people harassed him, all of those videos are on internet now as well. Now, but what's happening is that, you know, when we talk about validation, there's so much of it, because December, Christmas, New Year's, everybody was out and everybody wanted to post pictures of their New Year's as if that they have had the best one, right? Now, my question is, why do you have to post it? You know, are you enjoying it in the first place? Do you even ask yourself this question?
Or are you living in the moment in the first place?
Yeah, people have forgotten about it in totality. So imagine that, you know, nobody's thinking whether I'm having a good time or not, but the picture needs to be good.
Yeah, it has to be
That's
perfect. Or like when you go on a holiday. So you've spent like thousands of pounds, rupees or whatever, you spend lots of really hard-earned money. You've gone on this gorgeous beach, it's beautiful. Yes, but now you're so obsessed with taking that perfect picture that you forget to actually enjoy the beach.
True,
yes, that's
true. So why do you think that people now feel the need that, you know, I need to put it out there so that my social circle sees it and then kind of says, hey, you've done a good job. Wow,
I think,
fabulous.
I think we're all lonely, and we're all lonely. So if you think about it, with work and with life, we're all essentially very lonely people now. We're working harder, we're working longer hours. All of us, unanimously. I don't think you have to look at any profession. People, even teachers, who people used to at one point in life say that, oh my God, pick the teaching job, it's so easy. You only have to work certain hours of the day and you're off all the holidays. Ask any teacher, they will beg to differ and they'll say how hard their life is. So because everybody's working so hard, this quick, instant validation, like instant coffee, gives you that quick cake and then you're done. You're done with it and you move on because you don't have time to seek real validation anymore.
So what do you think needs to be done? You know, how do you think that these behavior patterns need to change? How do you think we can do it ourselves? Do you think that we really need to restrict the use of social media? Or, you know, the people who we surround ourselves with? How do we do it then?
So there have been 2 different ways people have done this. One is clean detox. Clean detox is when they go completely from 100 to 0. which is like, I'm not doing anything, that's it, my phone is in the bin, or even if the phone is not in the bin, all social media
Hold
apps are
up.
deleted. I get that. I think it's successful in a very small percentage of people. A lot of them will rebound. A lot of them will end up having more adverse effects for complete detox. So I'm not entirely sure how good that is. And those people are anomalies. Let's face it, you hear from someone, oh, can I share your, what's your Insta handle? I mean, you know, just to stay in touch. And they say, oh, I don't use Instagram. And then we're like, who are you?
Wow, who are you?
You're from some another planet.
How do you
yeah?
shop? How do you eat?
I had
What do
such
you
an
do?
encounter in Malaysia, you know, so I met a gentleman from a neighboring country and I was like, you know, so I do these YouTube vlogs and whatnot. So why don't you, you know, kind of speak about how, you know, our relationship is? And he was like, well, I don't want to be on social media. I was like, so what, you don't have any Instagram or Facebook or Twitter accounts? Can I know? I was like, okay, well, that's hard to believe. You know, it's hard to believe. these days.
Absolutely. And most majority of people, research is very clearly shown, are using about 2 to 4 apps on an average. So I think the first step is, if you be mathematical about it, you limit your hours.
Okay.
Every phone tells you how many hours you've been on the phone.
True.
So let's not kid ourselves. We have a very nice reality check within our phone. So look at that, see how many hours you spend where, see if, which were productive and cut down the non-productive ones.
Right.
Step 1. Step 2, limit the different apps that are not giving you joy. So I recently deleted Threads, for instance. I downloaded it because it was cool and
No, it's
everybody
not.
said, oh, it's
Oh,
not.
yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A month later, I'm like, what even is this? You know, and then it's just a repetition of everything. So now you're sharing things on 4 different platforms. So first you're putting on Facebook, then you're putting on Instagram, then you're putting on Twitter, then you're putting on Threads.
Yep.
By the end of it, you're exhausted.
Yes,
True.
that's true.
But no, now the solution needs to be, for example, sorry Aja, but you know, this is something which I thought. So imagine that just like, God forbid, if we have a cold, you know, we're going to go see a physician or a
Yeah.
doctor.
Yeah.
Or, you know, if my car broke down, I'm going to go to a mechanic. Now we do have amazing people and companies who actually handle your social medias. You know?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
why don't
yeah.
we do that? I mean, if we are to do that,
I mean,
why
not
don't we do
everyone,
that?
everyone is not rich like you who can have resources that they can have managers or I mean companies
I mean,
who
it's
can
not
handle
expensive
it.
as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it does require resources. But now I think let's talk about some
True,
of the
that's true.
ancillary benefits of the social media, because obviously when it is such an integral part, a very social fabric of our lives. So let's talk about it. What makes it that much an important and interwoven aspect of our life.
And before we ask her, I would want you to kind of shed some light on that as well. What are the positive aspects for you, so
Okay,
that we have
obviously.
some different,
Yeah,
you know,
opinion.
Obviously, I'm going to talk about it. So, for example, I think the one thing important is that it gives us a community to build, right? So, for example, on Twitter, I can connect with the like-minded people. So, I'm a lot more invested in the research. I'm a lot more invested in, looking out for the opportunities which can enhance my research potential. And I find a lot of opportunities on the Twitter. Secondly, for example, on the Twitter, this is a very trending thing nowadays, that it gives voice to a lot of people, to a lot of authors who do not have access to all of these publishing companies, a very expensive one of the publishers who cannot do that. But if they write something on the Twitter and that thread goes on viral, so that can catapult you into in a spotlight, right?
Overnight.
And yes, and you can get some very good offers when it comes to book publishing. So these are very productive activities, right?
True.
And then it also promotes a lot of businesses. So you see influencers, you see bloggers, you see that there is a way of life, they earn money out of it, right? But then again, obviously, how much are we using it? Is it good for our to live a meaningful life or not? This is a big question mark, right? So obviously, you cannot discount all of these positives of the social media, and then, you know, let's focusing on the negatives. Obviously, we need to detox ourselves from the digital media if we think that our lives are not going in a very productive manner, right? So,
Yeah,
Dr. Rubio,
yes.
how do you think about it? I mean, it does have its
Arun,
ancillary.
your point is so interesting, and I love the last thing that you mentioned. I have so many of these Insta ladies who are basically just housewives. They're sitting at home and are running these really, really popular,
Yes.
successful businesses.
Yes.
Be it cooking, be it clothes, be it whatever they're doing.
Freelancing for that matter.
Exactly. And these are the people who had this talent and who could do it, but weren't aware of how to promote it. So as a result of that, they were just kind of just sat there. One day somebody decided, you know what, I'm going to make these cakes and I'm going to sell them online.
Yeah.
And now all you need to do is go on
Oh,
Instagram,
yes.
look for cakes, and you need a birthday cake for your kid's birthday, and that's it. You have like 25 different people you can pick
Exactly,
from.
and there was a time when, you know, there was a need for us to kind of know the taste before and whatnot, but now the aesthetics part of it has
Yeah,
actually
it's
taken
so
over
important,
so much.
exactly.
Like, oh, it looks so nice. Well, वैसे भी कौन
It
ही
has a
खाएगा
Superman
cake?
on it,
और
or
इधर लो.
some cartoon on it.
Yeah.
And like the work, so basically these are fully running businesses,
Yes.
and some have become like really they become millionaires through this.
True, true.
So one of the brands that I wear and I love, absolutely love and adore, I have seen their transition journey, and I am in awe of how cool they are, because they built from zero to literally this corporation which employs a lot of people. So through this business, Now she has more than a dozen employees who are working for her. So she's actually providing sustenance for other people. So that's pretty amazing.
And it's getting better as well. So imagine that earlier when I used to order clothes online, you know, they never used to fit me.
Yes.
But now, alhamdulillah, you know, everything's just perfect.
That's probably because you've lost weight. I was going to say that. You've lost a lot of weight.
Yeah, and maybe because of the fact because we
shoe
got
size stays the same, no?
yes, and I think we've got I mean robbed lots, especially when the online business started. But now there's a lot more credibility into it because whenever I order, I do get authentic things, you know.
Yeah.
But there was a time when I was not getting authentic things, right? But then now let's talk about how
Identity theft. So
Yeah,
that is one thing
identity
we
theft.
must talk about because I know we were short on time. So the scariest part of social media and AI now, we all need to be aware of this. So this is literally a public service message. When we put pictures of our children, their birthdays, this is just a small example. So you put a birthday picture on a specific day and you said my kid has just turned like, I don't know, 12, 18, whatever. Now the whole world knows what their date of birth is. So their social security, their bank details, anything can be hacked very easily because most of our passwords begin with our birthdays.
Yeah.
So this is a very real reality check. Then there's a second thing that they can, AI is actually taking your pictures and your images and creating whole persons and creating whole videos where your faces are incorporated on them. I doubt that people like us will be so at risk, but celebrities, for instance, will be completely at risk. And this trend has already started, that in India, for instance, they've started sort of already proactively suing companies and already banning them from using their images for AI. So these are the things, I know we're tiny fish in this very huge sea/pond, but we need to be aware that we are all at risk.
And it's very dangerous as well. You know, this is exactly what Elon Musk mentioned, you know, in one of his conferences where he said that, you know, AI is far more dangerous than what we can comprehend. So imagine, unfortunately, that, you know, that we have come across a few videos where, you know, people, you know, themselves actually kind of lost their character. Unfortunately, we certainly had no facility to kind of verify whether the video is authentic or not. So imagine that, you know, there's this computer who can generate any sort of video of you. And, you know, it must, you know, I go back home and it's my wife, hey, you know what, you were doing this. And I'm like, when did I do this? I didn't do this really. So how do you think that we're going to protect ourselves, our future generations from all of this which is happening out there? Identity theft, for example.
I think this is going to be very tricky, and I think this is going to be something they will have to learn and evolve into. So this generation was born into it, so their problems are different to ours, and they will be as time goes on, and more threat will come along. Thankfully, humans are very resilient, so we kind of like almost always land on our feet. So I'm hoping that that is going to be the case in this situation, and with time, rules also come into place. So one of the good things about living in a civilized society is that ultimately laws and regulations will sort of regulate all these things.
Right.
And lastly, I did want to mention about the fact that there is a lot more awareness about social issues. I think you touched on that, Hajra. So a lot of the issues someone like me might not have even heard of. I'm not into politics, I'm not a political person, but the only politics that I know is through social media. So that's the only way. If somebody was to ask me who the Prime Minister is, I'd probably be stuck for a second. Like, oh my God, I don't know the answer to that is.
Don't be stuck today. Yeah.
Okay.
That's going to be hard for us.
But if you're watching even Twitter, a lot of real news is coming through that nowadays. So even the mainstream media channel is not giving you all the information.
And you know, we've just very recently drawn this line. You know, it was a very interesting conversation that we've had with our boss as well. And the other day he was like, that you see that, you know, when we talk about politics and infotainment and all of that, it's on phone. But when we talk about entertainment, it's on television. And I wanted to touch upon that. For example, Netflix, Prime Videos and all of that. Now, and I've been talking about it. So imagine in 90s, you know, they were glamorizing smoking. Now, you know, when you move on to 2000s, they've glamorized drinking. From there onwards, 2010 onwards.
I think smoking is still glamorized.
Yeah, it was drugs too as well. So imagine that the kind of impact and, you know, the need which is being created within the market, because people might not understand it. Every bit of it is marketing.
Yeah, 100%. And this is the point. It's all a lie. You have to remember that. You have to remember what's real and what's unreal and what's artificial. Artificial, you know, the artificial lights are very obvious. So you'll see a picture and you'll see this gorgeous image with this perfectly set table, and there'll be perfect flowers and perfect food and everything will be pretty perfect. However, how does it taste? What's happening around it? How many people are really eating it?
And they do not even know the struggle. You know how those branded bags are being placed around it.
Are they happy in
For it to be
the
in
first
the
place?
picture.
Strategically shown.
Yeah.
Again, are they happy in the first place, or they are having a meaningful life or meaningful content or substance in their lives. We really don't know that, because social media, you can carefully curate your content out there on the social media, but I mean, there's a story behind every person and there's a story behind every emotion, and we really don't know that, and social media is very deliberately hiding it. But now let's talk about something that I touched upon in our starting, and I do believe that social media promotes mediocrity, because the conversations that you see, right, all this is going on is the ill wishes going on, or people are just attacking one another, and I don't see a very meaningful conversation. Obviously, you can't label every conversation as the meaningless, but generally it's like that. So do you believe that the algorithm is designed in a way that it promotes mediocrity?
What's happened is that we don't really realize that we can't change other people's beliefs and thoughts. So the ultimate gist is this at the end of the day. So if I have certain sets and beliefs, whether it's religious, whether it's political, whether it's just something to do with social norms, you cannot change my mind. So what's happening is you have these strangers fighting and sniping at each other.
Oh, yes.
Then you have people like me who are sitting there reading the comments. So I actually really enjoy that, by the way. I love, so the picture actually might just be very mundane and very like basic. And then underneath it, there will be all kinds of chaos.
Yeah.
And that
Oh, yes.
chaos is, I think, what's happening in our brains as well then.
Oh,
so
yes.
all that chaos, all that fighting, you're kind of absorbing it, and it's going in your head. And then, you know, you wake up in the middle of the night and you've had this weird, sort of broken sort of
Ye maine kya
thoughts.
dekha?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then you don't realize that that's all actually coming from all that chaos. So this is very real, how our brain is subconsciously like adopting all these things and like, so just absorbing it, not even realizing it. And mediocrity, it basically what happens is that ultimately everybody is different, and you might be moving around in a different sector of society, which you have a certain different level of intelligence, for instance. But this is a plain field where everybody is exactly the same.
Exactly. So it's more like a sheep herd as well, you know.
Yes.
And the reason being, before we wrap it up as well, but thank you so much, you know, for being with us. Lovely to be in
Thank you so
conversation
much.
with you on how to detox from social media and all
Digital
the toxins
detox,
which are
yes.
in your life, ladies and gentlemen. But towards the end, there's only one thing, and that is, you know, we see so many success stories on social media. You know, we read about people, we see sports car people are driving, you know, on their private yachts and whatnot. Imagine today, actually, if it happens to be Wednesday, next Wednesday you'll be watching the same video. You're not taking any action about it, all right? So I think people, what they need to do is, if they really want to detox, yes, use it. You know, it's for the best of you to be out there. But please make sure, number one, that you take action, whatever you think is necessary and important for your goal to be achieved.
And there's
I think
always
that's the
an
only
inner
solution.
calling if there is a call to action, right? So listen to your intuition, because this is your soul's way of communicating to you. So never discount that. And with that, we're going on a short break, and after we come back, there's an interesting discussion.
Yeah,
lined
let's
up.
detach from social media.
Yeah.
बुलबुल ने गुल से, गुल ने बहारों से कह दिया, एक चौदहवीं के चांद ने तारों से कह दिया, हो दुनिया किसी के प्यार है। भूले से मुस्कुराओ तो मोती बरस पड़े, भूले से मुस्कुराओ तो मोती बरस पड़े, पलके उठा के देखो तो कलियां भी हंस पड़े, पलके उठा के देखो तो कलियां भी हंस पड़े, खुशबू तुम्हारी जुल्फ की फूलों से कम नहीं, दुनिया किसी के प्यार
Atar Ziad Sahab, you have definitely casted a spell on us and all our audiences who are out there as well. I mean, imagine that it's a foggy morning away in Islamabad, you're in your drawing room lounge, wherever you are, alongside your partner or your loved ones, and you're listening to this. Thank you so much for being with us. It was lovely to kind of hear you out today as well. And he happens to be from the Pandit Gharana. And I think that it kind of speaks volume about the kind of talent you possess. And alongside him, we're very lucky that we've been joined by Nathaniel as well, who happens to be a tabla player. Thank you so much for being with us. Lovely to have you over here. So first of all, Pandit Gharana. बताइए सर हमें उसके बारे में.
My first guru is Mr. William.
Okay.
His real name is Mohan Chand, and after partition, his name is William.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and after him, my guru is Mr. Robin Ghosh.
Wow.
And Mr. Robin Ghosh is Manir
of Mehdi Hasan.
Ustad Manir Ashik and Samuel Gill Saab and Mehdi Hasan. And he's also Pandit Gharana.
Wow.
And then
That's wonderful, because Shehzad, we were earlier on talking about detoxing, unplugging ourselves from the social media, and you read a lot of self-help literature, and I think we talked about it yesterday. The self-help literature or the motivational literature talks about that in order to help yourself, in order to love yourself more, when you detox yourself from the social media or unplug yourself from the social media. So a lot of people enjoy music.
True.
And it is said about the music that it is food to our soul, right? Ruh ki ghaza hai, right? And it is a universal language, because of good music, no matter in whatever place, in whichever time it is being played, it always uplifts you, and it has that sort of an effect on us, right? And especially nowadays, you see the qawwalis and ghazals, and they're really trendy and classical, and shadi season going on, so you often find, you know, invite to a qawwali nights and whatnot, right?
Shandi.
Oh yes, and there are lots of qawwals who are invited to enjoy the evening.
Exactly.
But obviously, when we talk about the classical, when we talk about the ghazal, so sir, so what sort of classical you would like to? We would like to listen to some classical music from you. So
many classical ragas I do.
Sure. Can we listen to it?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Rag Bhopali.
I know Ram Bhopali as well.
In fact. शाम मान बिनती करूं मैं तो, 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 देखो देखो छेड़ो नहीं भैया मोरी मरोड़ी, शाम मान बिनती करूं मैं तो, शाम मान बिनती करूं मैं तो, देखो देखो छेड़ो नहीं भैया मोरी मरोड़ी, शाम मान बिनती करूं मैं तो, जाओ रे कन्हैया मोरी मटकी फटक दीनी, जाओ रे कन्हैया मोरी मटकी फटक दीनी, हटो हटो जाओ जाओ करो नहीं बारा जोड़ी, शाम मान बिनती करूं मैं तोरी, शाम मान बिनती करूं मैं तोरी, सारे गा पदा सारे गा सादा बगैर साथे करूं मैं तोरी, शाम मान बिनती करूं मैं, जाओ रे कन्हैया मोरी मटकी फटक दिने, जाओ रे कन्हैया मोरी जाओ जाओ जाओ। अब पंडित घराना especially is a sur sadhana.
Sur Sadhana.
Yeah.
Pandit Gharana is known for Sur Sadhana.
माँ सरस्वती and sur sadhana. जाओ रे कन्हैया मटकी फटक दीनी जाओ रे कन्हैया मोरी मटकी फटक दीनी हटो हटो जाओ जाओ हटो हटो जाओ जाओ करो नहीं बारा जोड़ी शाम मान विनती करूं मैं तोरी शाम मान विनती करूं मैं तोरी शाम मान विनती करूं मैं तोरी
Wow, that was fantastic. I think there was a lot of romanticism in this very amazing ghazal which he sang as well. Athar bhai, I think that you're doing a phenomenal job by far as well. But क्यों आप भेज ही रहे थे? जाओ जाओ हमने नहीं जाना.
Actually, they're part of love.
Exactly.
Krishna and Radha.
Exactly, and which is why today, you know, I would love to kind of ask you that, you know, you started from Sur Bhopali,
Yeah.
and then you came down to Sur Sadhana, right?
Yeah.
So when it's mixing two surs,
Yeah.
how do you think that the audience will react? Because, you know, for the people to be more aware about sur, I think is something very important. So can we talk a little more about surs, or can you explain it to us that this
What
is
exactly
this
is the sur?
or
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is this sur?
Yeah, I try. This we are sometime in Pakistan we sur. They all were, but if Pandit Gharana, this sur.
Wow. So, and you know the sole reason why we wanted to do
Like
this
a prayer.
Exactly. So why, well, you know, the sole reason why we wanted to do this was because Hajra actually wanted to kind of, you know, do the same sur with you as well. So, you know, Hajra,
Yeah.
why don't you do the same
I
exercise?
will when I get the
Yeah,
chocolate
that's-
from you, no? Why not? Why not?
Yeah, we
Okay,
all
let's
always
try it.
Gamak,
Okay,
Gamak
I'll do
and
it, I'll
Taan, Gamak, Taan and Murki.
Okay,
we
let's
all
try.
doing.
Staji, please. अगर आपकी इजाजत हो तो. मेरी बारी गाड़ी आपने इतनी तेज चला दी.
But Pandit Gharana this sur shared sur.
Mellow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. And you know, for everybody who's out there, इसको कहते हैं जगह पकड़ना. क्या जगह पकड़ी उस्ताद जी? क्या जगह पकड़ी?
Oh, wonderful.
जगह जगह से.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. And there's one more thing to it as well, because most of the time, you know, whenever we listen to a ghazal or a qawwali, there's always Saregama Padani sa, you know, some jugalbandi sort of a thing as well.
Yeah.
So can we do a jugalbandi in between, you know, the tabla and the harmonium? Can we do such a practice
Yeah,
over here?
I will.
Can we do that? Okay, let's try.
It's a Sufi song. It's Bulle Shahs.
Yep.
Sure, go ahead.
कर कत्तण वल ਧਿਆਨ ਕੁੜ ਨਿਕਰ कत्तण वल ਧਿਆਨ ਕੁੜ ਨਿਕਰ कत्तण वल ਧਿਆਨ ਕੁੜ ਨਿਕਰ कत्तण वल ਧਿਆन ਕੁੜ ਨਿਕਰ कत्तण वल ਧਿਆन ਕੁੜ ਨਿਕਰ कत्तण वल ਧਿਆन ਕੁੜੇ ਕਰ कत्तण वल ਧਿਆਨ ਕੁੜ ਨਿਕਰ कत्तण वल ਧਿਆन ਕੁੜ ਨਿਕਰ कत्तण वल ਧਿਆन ਕੁੜ ਨਿਕਰ कत्तण वल ਧਿਆन ਕੁੜੇ कर मारना हुस्न जवानी दा परदेस रहना सलाने दा
क्या बात है, क्या बात है.
कर मारना हुस्न जवानी दा परदेस रहना सलाने दा झूठी फानी दा दुनिया झूठी फानी दा ना रहना नाम निशान कुड़े निकर कतण वल ध्यान कुड़े निकर कतण वल ध्यान कुड़े सदा ना पेके रहना है ना पासंबड़ी दे बहना है सदा ना पेके रहना है ना पासंबड़ी दे बहना है नतवा छोड़ा सहना है नतवा छोड़ा सहना है बस पैसे सस ननान कुड़न कर कतण वल ध्यान कुड़न कर कतण वल ध्यान कुड़े
Beautiful, mesmerizing, fascinating. You know, this
Wonderful.
was so amazing to
Wow.
be around Sarah Tarzia and Mr. Nathaniel as well. Nathaniel,
Thank you, sir.
must be a difficult job, right? You know, kind of look at the lips and then kind of sync
no
it
doubt
with tabla
it's
and
very
how
difficult.
or where the story is going.
Yeah.
Is it difficult?
Yes, very difficult.
Exactly. But how do you manage? Is it how many years
It's
of practice?
just a practice, you can say.
Every single day?
Yeah.
That's
Yes,
the practice. I
and
think it's
that
phenomenal.
This is what we say, that practice makes a man perfect, right?
Yeah.
So that's wonderful. So we can talk with you in Urdu, obviously, for your ease.
no problem.
So आपका ये जो सफर था कैसा रहा? आप कितने अरसे से प्रैक्टिस कर रहे हैं?
Above 30 years.
30 साल के तो आप खुद लगते हैं। तो 30 पैदा होते साथ ही प्रैक्टिस शुरू कर दी। क्या 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 बात है। लेकिन बहुत ही उम्दा आप तबला बजा रहे हैं और
Thank you so much.
जितने भी लोग जो तबला बजाना चाहते हैं आप उनको क्या राय देंगे? आप कहेंगे कि कब किस उम्र से प्रैक्टिस शुरू कर देनी चाहिए? कितने घंटे दिन में करनी चाहिए?
थिंक इज के ये काम जो होता है ये स्पेशली फॉर क्लासिकल ये 5 इयर्स से और 6
5
इयर्स
साल की
से शुरू हो जाता है स्टार्टिंग जो इसका है।
और सिर्फ तबले की जब हम बात करते हैं तो सिर्फ क्लासिकल ही हम तबले से प्ले कर सकते हैं या किसी भी कोई भी जॉनरा प्ले कर सकते हैं?
बेसिक तो क्लासिकल होता है ना,
बेसिक क्लासिकल ही है तो वो सीखना बड़ा जरूरी है।
गज़ल और ये कवाली वगैरह ये बाद में लाइट में आता है।
Exactly. So for everybody who's out there, for our non-English speaking, so in fact English speaking audiences, ladies and gentlemen, we were asking whether if somebody wants to learn tabla, what do they need to do? So he's saying that if you need to learn tabla, you need to start at a very early age of 5 years old, and classical happens to be the basics of it as well. But thank you so much, and thank you so
Thank
much,
you so
Akhtar bhai,
much. Thank you
for
so
being
much.
with us. If there's anything you would want to say towards the end, please go ahead.
I'm really thankful to all of you and thank you you
Yeah,
invite me
आपका
and
शुक्रिया that you,
We're really
that you
glad
took
that-
out time,
yes.
you came
Yeah.
over here, you
Yeah.
performed for our audiences.
Yeah.
It was wonderful to have you
It's
over here.
our
Thank you.
pleasure.
Thank you
Thank
so
you so
much.
much.
Ladies
Thank
and
you so
gentlemen, it was Mr. Akhtar Zia from the Pandit Gharana and Mr. Nathali and the tabla player himself. Two legends
Right.
over here inside the studios. Until next time, well, this was our effort to detach you from social media. And you just enjoy your cup of coffee alongside a great ghazal. Ladies and gentlemen, make
And
sure
you
that you do it
enjoy-
every single day.
And make sure you also enjoy the broadcast, right? Because our job depends on that.
Yeah.
So with that, we will bid you farewell. Allah Hafiz until next time.
It's a
And
good morning.